of Women by Annie Murray. Read by Annie Aldington. Part 1, 1926 to 1936. Violet was 11 when the first of the babies came. A scrawny, cringing stranger appeared at their door, and they had to peer out past Mum to see. She was such a big woman. She and her sister Rosina, who was 8, stood by the range, listening to the whispers. "Me sister might be able to manage when she's better. A few shillings, that's all we've got. They sent me to you." On the freezing air through the door came the smoke and stink of the metal-bashing factories and the sweet sawdust from the timber yard. Violet's mother, Bessie, was a strapping matron of 34. She stood with her hands on her hips in her white starched apron, her face hard as granite, lording it over this poor woman. Bessie was gaffer of the yard here, and she knew it. Everyone looked to Bessie Wiles, but by God you didn't want to cross her. She'd take her time to answer if she wanted. "I might be able to," she said at last. After a few questions, the sick mother of the child lived round in Summer Lane, she said, "All right, give it here," and held out her arms. The visitor said, "Thank you," twice over in a grovelling voice, and Violet knew her mother had never seen the woman before, and wondered why she'd come here. It was only when Mum turned that they saw the baby, a pale, odd-looking thing. Its head seemed too big and was topped with a fuzz of gingery hair. Rosina ran straight up and peered at it. "A babby? Whose is it?" Violet held back, wary of Bessie's beefy, slapping hands and bullying tongue, and the cat-o'-nine-tail she kept fixed to her belt. Violet was a frail girl, coltishly thin, with pale, almost luminous skin, straggly blonde hair and sad blue eyes. She saw a new glow in her mother's eyes. "It's a little wench. Miserable scrap she is. Look at the size of her. The mum's been taken bad, so we're looking after her. There are worse ways of earning a few bob. Don't go poking her, Rosina, you'll wake her." Marigold came downstairs then and joined in, staring at the red-haired baby. Charlie was out playing with his pals. Marigold and Charlie were twins, 2 years older than Violet, but Marigold wasn't quite all there, was what Mum said. "She'll never amount to much," she said that too, as if Marigold was a stone with no feeling. Violet saw some flicker of hungry emotion in Marigold's dark eyes, and she clung on at her mother's side. Marigold couldn't seem to get enough of the baby. "You going to give her your titty, Mum?" Marigold had been old enough to see her mother feed Rosina, and Mrs. Cameron next door was seldom without a child hanging off her little pimple breasts. Bessie gave a harsh laugh, her big body quivering. "Oh, no, I'm past all that, Bab, more's the pity." Violet had once heard her saying to Mrs. Cameron and Mrs. Davis out in the yard that after Rosina she'd had it all taken away. She said it in a low, mournful voice, with a big sigh from the depths of her. Mrs. Davis said that she wished she could bleed and will have it all taken away too, that all these babbies would be the death of her. But Bessie looked at her with tears in her eyes. It was the only time Violet had seen Mum overcome like that. "Oh, no, Clara. Ma Jack, God rest him, always liked me with a big belly on me and a babby in me arms. Nothing like it." "You don't lose any of yours, though, Bess," Mrs. Davis said. "Bring 'em into the world and watch 'em fade away. That's when it does for you." With a grunt, Bessie knelt down on the rag rug on the rough brick floor, barking out orders as usual. "Pass me shawl over, Marigold, and we'll lay her on it for a bit. Have a look over her. Violet, get the kettle on." Violet did as she was commanded, then looked grimly down at the child. She didn't want the puny thing here. There was barely enough to go round as it was. "Mum, how long's it going to stay? Mum?" But Bessie wasn't listening. Marigold knelt over the baby.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?